And there we go. We are recording. So you can see the agenda there. We've got a lot of kind of small things, nothing really earth-shaking um, this time around, but we'll kind of catch up on some things that are going on that I think a lot of you are going to be interested in, especially these coming events. So, all right. So, speaking of coming events, what the organization that we've all known as CCIA, the Colorado Clean Tech Industries Association, has changed their name. They've shortened it a little bit. They're just Colorado Clean Tech now. And they're having for the first time this event that they're calling Colorado Climate Week. And I'm going to talk just a little bit about what the agenda and some of the things that are going to be going on at that. This is a free event, so encourage you all to maybe if you just see one or two things you want to attend, just shoot down and go to those. You don't necessarily have to sit in all 3 days of these, but you can see the link there. You can register and look at the agenda at coloradoclimateweek.com. And so here's day one. I'm not going to go through all of this, but I did want to highlight some of this. Obviously, you can see this on the line, but thought this might be a good chance to point out a couple of things. The first meeting is going to be, it's at three different locations throughout the week. And the first meeting is going to be at CSU Spur at the Hydro Building, where we had the Colorado Day back in October. Or I'm not Colorado Day, I'm sorry, Hydrogen Day, Colorado Hydrogen Day. And we're going to have two hydrogen discussions on that first day. The first one's called Hydrogen in the Rockies. You can see it there. Buford is going to be involved in that. Some of you know him. And then Paul Nelson, who's with SARAD, also a real strong proponent for hydrogen. They'll be in on that. And then there's a second panel, Hydrogen Panel 2, which Paul Nelson is also part of. So just wanted to highlight those two events. You might be interested in attending those. You might see some other things here that are of interest to you as well. Then the next day, day two, is actually going to be at a place called Industry Rhino Station, 3827 Lafayette. That's up kind of at the north end of downtown, closer to I-70. You can see what some of the events are, talking about how artificial intelligence is supercharging climate tech, a few other things, some things about mining. Obviously, I don't think everybody's going to be interested in all of the events, but you may want to just pick and choose. And they are having a happy hour, so that could be of interest as well. And then day three is going to be held at the Sheridan downtown. And that's only a half day. It finishes up just around noon. But I'm real interested in the geothermal. I would like to try to go down and go to that. And I'll probably be there most of day one and two. So hopefully we'll see some of you there. Now, Colorado School of Mines is having a hydrogen symposium, and this is still a little bit in the planning stage. I understand I'm going to be speaking. I don't know if it's for 3 minutes or a few minutes or what it is. Haven't gotten the details on that yet. This is really a day and a half event. It's going to be out at School of Mines. Admission is $50 for this. Not, I don't think a deal breaker for most of us. This is the very preliminary agenda, I guess I'll say. It starts about noon, really, on the first day, Monday, April 7th, and then ends up about 3:45. But I'll give you all a chance just to kind of peruse who is speaking. And again, this is really preliminary. This is still under development. And then the second day, even less detail about that. But I'll make sure to make that information available. Or I'd encourage you to go to, let's see, did I give? Yeah, I created a shorthand URL for this event because it was a little bit too long for people to be taking notes during this meeting. But if you go to this tinyurl.com/h2mines25, that'll take you to the website for this so you can get more information on that. All right. And then this conference is a little bit more expensive. I think it's $700 or $800, but it's a little bit more comprehensive. But this is that same week as the Mines Conference, April 9th and 10th. It's going to consist of a lot of lectures and an exhibit hall. And I'll give you a little bit of the agenda on that here in just a minute. CHN is going to have a booth at this, and we're going to have actually, I've got a couple of volunteers who are going to help me out with that. Brendan Donor and Mike Grimwade are going to help as volunteers kind of staff that booth. I think it's going to be really important for us to network at this to try to make contact with a lot of the hydrogen exploration folks. You can get more information at rmag.org. And the, one of the reasons I feel that hydrogen from geology, whether it's natural hydrogen or hydrogen that's generated underground from old petroleum wells, is I think those are the only forms of hydrogen that are going to be able to compete with diesel for transportation and with natural gas. And so I think these are really important. And we'll talk to um, this natural hydrogen idea in just another minute. So the PowerPoint police are going to be after me for this slide certainly, but I did want to put this up. I'm not going to read to all of this, but I did highlight the words hydrogen where it occurs because this is a helium and hydrogen conference. So obviously they're going to be talking about helium a little bit. Generally, I would say, just looking at these titles, it looks fairly technical. And because this conference is a little more expensive, it might not be as of general interest as the other two conferences we talked about. But want to at least let everybody know that this is out there. Um, Here's the afternoon of day one. Obviously, there's just a ton of detail here, but again, highlighted the hydrogen so you can see um, what's going on there. We've got some things going on in France, the second to the last bullet there, talking about that. And again, if you go to their website, you'll be able to see this in detail. Here's day two, morning. Um, Again, very detailed. Looks pretty technical, but still, I think, be of interest to a lot of us. And certainly the networking there, meeting people, that sort of thing will be good. All right. So probably enough said on that. And again, go to the website. You can find out more information. There's a couple other events that are not local. This first is the Houston event, June 25th and 26th. Um, some of you might be interested in that's a pretty big event if you want to attend that. And if you're interested in a European trip, we've got in October in Hamburg, another hydrogen technology expo, which of course would be a chance to network with some of the folks that are over in Europe. So just to let you know on those. All right. So one of the things I wanted to talk about today, switch gears here, is something I'm calling the failure of imagination. And I actually did a podcast under this same title a while back. But what I wanted to talk about is this idea of failure of imagination. And this is always the case when things are new and things are changing. People tend to think in the old paradigms of the way things used to be, or they think things are going to continue the way they are, which of course isn't the case. And especially in the area of clean energy, things are just changing so fast and so radically that it's hard to keep up. But the way this started, I think, during Desert Storm, talking about the inability to imagine some of the things that happened. I know well, a real good example of this is when the World Trade Center, the Twin Towers were bombed. I mean, nobody ever thought that people would be willing to give their own lives just to bomb a building like they did. And so I think we've always got to be a little bit vigilant maybe and use our imaginations a little bit more to think about how things are going to be in the future. But um, I think that we can extend this definition beyond just bad things that happen that we should have foreseen to what are the possible outcomes beyond business as usual. And I'm going to give some examples here. So, in the context of clean energy, you know, I continually hear about wind and solar, wind and solar. It's like a broken record, and frankly, I think that those could be niche energy sources in the future. I think there's a lot more to it than that, and that's what I'm going to talk about. And then also distributed versus centralized energy systems. And so we'll dig into both of these because the grid is changing and it's not your father's grid anymore, maybe to coin or use that phrase. So In the past, with our energy sources, we had very similar fossil power plants all around the country, all around the world, that were pretty much deployed everywhere. And but in the future, I think we're going to have energy sources that are very location dependent because I think we're going to be relying on newer sources, and some regions will have those and some won't. And so there's not a one size fits all. And I think wherever it makes sense to use, for example, wind along the coast, very windy all the time, or the Great Plains is very windy. Other places may be very blessed with geothermal energy that's easy to get to. There's places that are going to have natural hydrogen, and I'm going to talk to that a little bit. And so I think we all need to adjust our thinking to these new paradigms. In the past, with our old grid, really energy just flowed one way. And with the new grid, if you've got distributed sources all over the place, I think those things are going to. Um, I'm gonna mute you there. Sorry, somebody. Um, it's going to be very location dependent, depending on what the local resources are. And I think we need to be a little bit more aware of that. And then, of course, because of that, the grid needs to be bi-directional. It's really going to be more of an exchange of people putting energy on the grid, people taking it off, and things flowing in many different directions. All right, so, and sources are going to be smaller. I mean, you may have microgrids, things like that, that aren't much smaller than your typical power plant that we think of today. And on-site generation may completely avoid the use of the grid. We start hearing about these data centers and how the grid has got to grow to accommodate those. Well, maybe not. And we're going to talk about an example there. All right, so what are these energy sources? Now, I've shown all of these before, but I wanted to pull this together all in one spot to just give us an idea of really what's out there and where it exists. So you can see geothermal, and sorry, these maps are a little bit small, but here in the West, I mean, we're really blessed with good high temperatures that are not very far underground. And something to keep in mind is that, generally speaking, a geothermal energy plant, a solar array, a wind array are pretty much parity on cost. But geothermal, of course, produces energy 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, whereas wind, even in real windy places, it does stop once in a while. And obviously, solar, I mean, not only night, but also you get clouds during the day, and the sun is really only overhead to get really intense electricity generation certain times of the day. So you need to think about the total cost of some of these things and which ones make more sense, and of course where you are. Now, for example, natural hydrogen. This is the map that U.S. Geological Survey recently came out with, and there's some areas that really have a high probability of having natural hydrogen, and then there's areas that aren't so great. Um, and same thing with petroleum wells. I mean, we've got thousands here in Colorado. We've got, I understand, over 20,000 abandoned wells that could be producing hydrogen totally clean because the carbon stays underground. But you can see from this map of the US that there are a lot of petroleum wells throughout the rest of the country. I mean, Pennsylvania, look at that over there. And then, of course, Texas, Louisiana, Oklahoma, those kind of states that could certainly make use of that asset for local energy. And speaking of the Colorado abandoned wells, this is the state of Colorado. It's not, there's no legend or anything on here, but you can see where the mountains are. And the blue are these abandoned wells. And so, definitely an asset that we can take advantage of here. All right. Now, what I did was I kind of sliced and diced that information a little bit. I just took a look at, for each of the states, how many of these clean energy types, meaning the maps we have here, are in each of these states. And Minnesota, Iowa, New England, Florida, not so much, but a lot of the other states, like Colorado's got at least five different clean energy types. California's got quite a bit, Texas, Arkansas, Missouri. And so there's a lot of choices here for alternatives to basically the fossil fuel plants that we've been using. And then here's to give you an idea of what's the most prevalent. Well, here's the number of states that have each of these energy types, like wind, geothermal, natural hydrogen, and so forth. And you can see almost every state has got wind. And by the way, these were just kind of an eyeballing of these graphs, just looking at, well, where is it kind of prevalent? Almost every state, you could probably put a wind generator up. You could probably put solar almost anywhere. But what I tried to do here is give you an idea of which are probably the most prevalent energy sources in each of those states. All right, so I talked and I mentioned a minute ago about data centers. I think most of you probably noticed in the news they're talking about how these data centers need 100 megawatts, 200 megawatts, which is getting up to almost the size of a power plant at a utility. And so people are fretting about, well, how do we get that energy there? We'll have to build new power plants. We'll have to build new transmission lines to get it there. And I say I don't think that's the case. I mean, especially places that have old abandoned oil wells or have natural hydrogen, have a campus that's got the well, that's got the source of the energy, that either modifies it or does something with it. For example, you may want to turn hydrogen into electricity through a turbine. Put that all on the same campus. Why does it need to be across the town or across the state or even across the country and go to the expense as well as the uh, well, it's what's the word I want? The public does not like to see transmission lines, and so they're difficult to get put in and installed. But if you don't need to, because you can put this all on one campus, so this is what I'm talking about, this failure of imagination. Let's start thinking more in terms of what are alternatives to the business as usual to doing these kind of things. And by the way, I just did kind of a rough guesstimate here of what we're being told by Proton H2 and other folks that the hydrogen from these wells is probably going to be on the order of 30 cents a kilogram. That's at the site, at the well. And so that works out to probably somewhere in the neighborhood of less than a penny a kilowatt hour for that electricity. And you don't have to send it anywhere on a grid. And the other problem with a grid, if you start looking into how they do their billing, is there's a lot of other charges on the electricity. There's time of day charges. There's fees for things that the utility built, and they're trying to recover those costs and things like that. And so anytime you touch the grid, you get taxed, I'll call it, with a lot of these other fees in order to use that grid. And if you can avoid the grid, I mean, all the better. So anyway, I'd like to throw that idea out there. Hopefully, some of you maybe can act on this and do some things with it to just find alternatives to business as usual, I'll say. All right. I'm going to pause at this point. I don't know if any of you have comments or questions or anything like that. Oh, Walter's got his hand up. Go ahead, Walter.
I'm curious as to where you're getting your kilowatt hours per kilogram number. I see that one as the theoretical number. Most of the heat values for a gas turbine is about 8,600 BTUs per kilowatt hour, which comes out to about 14 kilowatt hours per kilogram.
Yeah, that's a good point. Well, I did try to take that into account here with the generator efficiency and the turbine efficiency. Um, I guess I can't tell you for sure if that covered it. It should have. Does does that
Yeah,
make
because
sense?
it should have shown instead of 33.33, it should have been about half that. It should have been about 14 to 15 kilowatt hours per kilogram
Um,
in my calculations anyway.
yeah, I don't
Maybe my
disagree.
rule of thumb is way off too.
No, I don't disagree, Walter. It's been a little while since I put this together, and I'm trying to remember my thought process here. I thought I was taking that into account with the turbine efficiency of just 40%, but um,
that scores are ranked every city.
yeah. So let's see, Franz, you're coming through. I'm going to mute you if I can.
Sorry.
Um, there we go. Okay. All right. Thanks, Franz. All right. So good point, Walter. I'll take another look at these numbers, see if I'm maybe off by a factor of two or something like that here. But anyway, the point is though that having everything co-located, on-site source and generation, I think is an idea that has some merit, especially where there's areas that have the resources. Now, this may drive the data centers to locate in areas near old oil wells, for example, where they can get that kind of energy, or where there's a natural hydrogen well, or maybe a wind array, or something like that. I assume there's probably some leeway that these companies have in where they put these data centers. I know they have some employees, but they're generally not a real high employment type of business, not like a factory maybe or something like that. So, all right, other comments or questions? All right, maybe enough said on that. So, at any rate, the takeaway I think is pretty obvious. Really, there's a lot more clean energy sources than we commonly hear about, and there's the list there. And expanding transmission lines may not be necessary. So I think I encourage you, all of you, if you're in webinars or whatever, and this gets brought up, bring up the idea of on-site energy. I think that there's a lot of merit to that. And as I've said many times before, that technology is changing fast, and we need to update our opinions probably weekly. All right, so shifting gears again, CERAD, who tends to go by SEP, CERAD Energy Partners, has just published a hydrogen transportation report. And this is in typical style of the things that CERAD does. It's a pretty comprehensive report, 453 pages, and it basically is analyzing the utilization of hydrogen in 6 transportation markets, which are medium and heavy duty trucks. Buses is another one, cargo ships another, commercial aircraft, rail, and then material handling, things like forklifts and so forth. And what they're doing with this is really providing some insight into what the market size is, what the trends are, as well as talking to some extent about policy, hydrogen derivatives, airports, seaports, and early stage companies, as well as the hydrogen demand for that's sustainable aviation fuel, SAF, sustainable aviation fuel. And then, of course, the total cost of ownership for the medium duty and heavy duty trucks. Now, because of the relationship that CERAD and CHN have, CERAD's offering this report to members at a 15% discount, but additionally, they're going to donate another 15% back to CHN. And if you decide to purchase this, use the discount code CHN25. And of course, you can learn more on the CERAD website. But I thought what I'd do is actually take you to that website right now and just show you a little bit of the it's really the executive summary of this. So this is the executive summary, which you can get through that link that I've put there. It's a Google Docs, I think, document. This is a little bit of the intro, but just to give you a little bit of an overview what this entails. So again, they're really looking at transportation and the vehicles and some of the other things surrounding that. Here's an interesting graph that I saw. And this is basically the total announcements by mode. And the modes are medium duty, heavy duty, ships, material handling equipment, that's MHE, buses, rail, and aircraft. Just basically showing you where the announcements have been made that there's projects going on. And I was a little bit disappointed to see that medium duty's only really got 7 announcements. And I think that just speaks to the fact that we don't have a lot of medium duty vehicles out there yet, which is really a big problem because I think that's going to be the area that's going to drive, I think more so than the heavy duty, just because the return on investment on because of the fuel cost is much better for medium duty. But a lot of heavy duty, a lot of ship announcements. You probably have noticed that in the press yourselves. And a lot going on with buses, of course. And I think California is driving a lot of that, California and Ohio. So that gives you an idea of some of the information that's here. Um, Here's some of the announcements where they've occurred globally, which is pretty helpful to see. Um, Hydrogen fuel transport announcement status, whether it's already operating or planned. But this kind of data really helps you form an opinion of what's going on, I think, and it's pretty useful. Announcement made by mode, fuel type by mode. And again, I'm not going to bear into this real deeply, but hopefully that gives you a little bit of an idea what is available out there. And I do encourage you. I'm going to go back to sharing the slides here. Here we go. Oh, come on. It's not switching. There we go. Sorry about that. But the um, executive summary is really only available at this link. Now, this is a shortened link from their website, but again, it's tinyurl.com and then SEP trans X sum and don't put the dot in there. That's just a tag for me here. But anyway, encourage you all to take a look at that. May not all have the budget for something like this, but certainly may find it useful. Maybe before I go on, any thoughts or questions or any comments on that? I didn't look to see. I don't think anybody from SARAD's on the call. No, we're good. Okay. All right. Well, like I said, this is a lot of kind of catching up on things on today's meeting here. So. All right, so I wanted to report out on the Drive Clean event that was held on February 26th, and actually it spilled over to a ride and drive on the 27th. But this was, I think, probably the best, and I think everybody agreed, this is probably the best Drive Clean event that has been had. It was really well attended. There was a lot of information presented by the Colorado Energy Office and other folks from the well, we had some NREL folks there, but really a lot of state representation there. And here's some of the topics that were discussed. We had, talk about trends, talking about funding for clean transportation, had some panels, talked about hydrogen fleets. Buford had Roy Hensler and Brendan and Frank Bruno with VIA were there to kind of give their thoughts. It was a really good event, and they have these. I believe it's twice a year, for sure, at least once a year. And I encourage you all to attend that. I think it was a grand total of $30 charge to be there, so not a budget buster, that's for sure. Um, oh, okay. I just had the one slide on that. I don't. Anybody that was at that event that has any thoughts or wants to comment on it? Yeah, Elliot, go ahead.
Yeah, I was just going to say, I'm really glad we had the opportunity to participate. Um, it was really head on. I met a lot of great people there that I was able to get all the state guys all at the same table at the same time there in the little afterwards meetings over there in the end room. But it's just really good to connect, even with the electrification people, so we kind of know. And I think that there's some crossover there too as well. I think working together is a lot better than fighting each other right now. We got enough fight with what's going on upstairs in Washington. So I think that from my perspective, it was money well spent and connections well received, and looking forward to moving forward with all of them. And I think having these events like your event too, Brian, keeps us together, the hydrogen group, us together to support each other an awful lot. And we're all trying to fight for just that next square inch of turf to move forward. And and it's a heck of a fight. If like you, Brian, you believe in what you're doing so much that you've committed yourself to it. And so of the people on my team and, the people that we know, like Buford's folks and all of that, it's a hard road ahead. It's not a get rich quick thing at all. It's a, it's a, it's a passion, but it's also a belief. And so it was a good event. They had really good speakers and a lot of good people.
Yeah. Well, thanks, Elliot. And, I really, I guess the theme of today's meeting almost could be talking about these events because we're covering quite a bit of that. But I really do encourage people to get out and go to these events. It helps support the event, first of all. But secondly, there's a lot of serendipity. You just never know when you're going to meet somebody, you're going to run into somebody, you exchange cards, you'll learn something. And this particular Drive Clean event, I think, had by far the best hydrogen representation. I mean, CHN had a booth, New Day had a booth. Elliot, you were there with a booth. Um, Brendan Donor was there with his Mirai showing that. So we're making progress, but yeah, sometimes it's hard to break away from things and get out and go to these events. But it's definitely worth it, I would say. All right, anybody else? Any thoughts or comments? All right.
Hey, this is Quinn from Drive Clean. I just want to say thank you for the comments. I just put something in the chat here, but we are planning another event here in October of this year. But yeah, really appreciate it. We are totally bought in on hydrogen here at Drive Clean. So yeah, just really appreciate it.
Well, thanks, Quinn. And I mean, it's getting easier because we've got some fuel stations coming. There's a few vehicles out there. It's not like it's all just smoke and mirrors anymore. It's starting to hit the road. So I think it becomes easier to talk about it and to well, I don't want to say push it, but advocate for it now that things are starting to happen. And let's hope they continue at the pace they're at.
Yep, absolutely. Thanks.
Yeah, thanks, Quinn.
Hey, maybe I can do some reaction to the event. I think the kind of clean or drive clean group, and certainly the connections that the Colorado group has with other states. There's a lot of initiatives that have come up to promote, and the success is there because of Colorado has the highest percentage, I think, was announced of electric vehicles to total vehicles sold over the last half year. So big success. But certain work groups, early adopters that work together in a group, a lot of these initiatives that electric driving has already created, I think are very, I think, perfect initiatives to move to when hydrogen gets to the same point, to learn from these and to tag on to that. So I was really happy to see a lot of kind of what's going on the electric drive side that we can learn from and tag on to from a hydrogen perspective.
Yeah, and Franz, somebody was telling me, I guess you have a battery electric vehicle, don't you?
No.
Oh, you don't?
I'm waiting for the hydrogen version, Brian.
Okay. Well, when somebody told me that, I was a little surprised, and that's why I brought it up. But
Yeah.
yeah, I'm in the same boat. I'm waiting for a hydrogen vehicle.
Yeah.
So hopefully it won't be too much longer. And I'm certainly going to rent Brendan's Mirai once he's up and running with that. Brendan, are you on? By the way, keep talking about you. Okay. I don't see him, and it's too difficult to flip screens here and look. But all right. So again, please try to come out to some of these events. It's really they're good, and you get more out of it than you expect you will too. All right. So I did want to mention the three hydrogen fuel station grant that we've got. I think all of you know that Colorado State University and New Day have an ongoing contract that was actually let by, I guess I'll say, the Federal Highway Administration. And that's for those three hydrogen fuel stations that'll be in Fort Collins, Denver, and Pueblo. And the money for this did come from, or is coming from, I should say, I don't want to talk about it in the past tense, the Inflation Reduction Act, the IRA. And that funding is still there, keeping our fingers crossed. And I saw this press release, which is why I mentioned this, that they powers that be feel that these tax credits may be on safer ground since 21 Republicans in the House are publicly opposing the elimination of this. So this was March 12th. I don't know that there's any newer information. If anybody's got any, let me know. But we're all kind of holding our breath, keeping our fingers crossed that this holds because this is really important. So, like I say, watch this space for updates. All right. Well, I didn't have a lot of material for today, and I think feeling a little thinner than I expected. But I did want to mention again, a number of people have um, purchased memberships just out of the goodness of their heart, which certainly helps us keep going. You all will recall that we've added these new lower cost memberships, $50 per year for individual and $200 per year for startup. And then for corporations, this has always been the case where the CHN membership and the Colorado Clean Tech membership were combined, and they're more expensive and they follow the dues structure, I guess I'll call it, for Colorado Clean Tech. But it includes membership in both organizations, which, for a corporation, I think there's probably a lot of advantages there. But of course, these paying a membership helps us sponsor events, like the Colorado Hydrogen Day we had in October, planning to do that again. Um, we have pretty low expenses because I don't obviously get paid for this, don't want to, but if we do want to get to the point of hiring some staff at some point, we've got to try to build up our coffers. So just trying to encourage everybody to chip in. And also, it gives you a sense of ownership. But absolutely, everybody is welcome to participate. You don't have to feel like you're obligated to pay at all. Not the case. Maybe I shouldn't say that, but I'm more interested in getting the word out about hydrogen and promoting the technology than anything else. So here is what the web page looks like. This is a screenshot of the web page. If you hover your cursor over members, join will pop up, which brings up the screen you see here. And then if you click on the individual startup, the blue button there, or corporate, that'll take you to the right area to pay with a credit card or however you want to do it. And still under construction, setting up a button that'll just allow people to donate in case anybody wins the lottery and wants to send a few dollars our way or something. So again, participation is open to all at no charge, but hopefully some of you will join with some of the others and throw some money our way. So actually, this is my last slide, so we're really running way ahead of time today. But I did record the discussion that we had last month about the psychology of existential threats and turned that into a podcast. So that's out there. And nowadays, of course, as so many of the podcasts offer the voice to text transcripts, which aren't perfect, but transcripts are there as well. If any of you found that useful. Also on the website, I did put the titles of the books there was 3 books that I referenced in case any of you want to go over to Amazon or Kindle or something and pick those up. But yeah, we continue to have pretty good listenership. I mean, all over the world, really. Europe, Asia, Oceania, down in New Zealand and Australia and so forth. I get LinkedIn requests from all over the world practically daily, and so I think we're getting noticed a little bit out there. All right, so way, way, way ahead of time, but that really is all that I have today. So I don't know if we've got some hot topics anybody wants to discuss. Walter, you've got your hand up again. You want to go ahead?
Sure. So what's your general consensus in the thought around the Hyzon and Nikola filing for bankruptcy for the heavy duty market?
Yeah, that's really really bad to see. Elliot's got his. I don't really have any comments there other than it's horrible. I hate to see it, but Elliot, do you have any insight into what's going on there?
Yeah, sorry, I was on mute. What I can say is that Unfortunately, Hyzon is pretty much liquidating everything they have, and they're who knows what's going to wind up with the equipment that they liquidated. They finalized that, but on the Nikola side, I think there's going to be a Nikola coming back out of all of this, of some version of it, in through the court orders and the documents that are publicly available. Um, they've got they've there's an opportunity for I guess they call it a stalking horse bid, but like a white knight, basically, to step in and acquire certain assets. And I think that that's going to happen. And it'll be good for the industry if it happens the way that I'm envisioning it. And um, a lot of good people, unfortunately, and great technology, great company. That's the challenge of early players like us, like Buford's company and ours and all of that, and everybody out here. When we're first on the turf, we got to fight a tougher war. So, it makes it a little easier for the next guys. But I think Nicola's got a lot of ground to stand on that's positive, in spite of the other side of it. I think they just got too financially deep too fast, and a lot of companies like Plug and all of that are trying to be all things to all people and in the space. And when you have a very, very big checkbook, it's easy to spend the money, but it goes away very quickly too. And for us, we treasure every penny, to move to the next step. And I think the lesson learned is watching that, so we don't fall into those same places. So when and if we have that opportunity to get the funding we need to move forward, which from our standpoint looks very positive, but it hasn't happened yet. So I think our days are sunnier now than they've been in a very long time, in spite of the politics. I think what we found is that the states have decided to take over and move forward with their efforts because it's important to their constituents. Colorado, particularly the air pollution environment issues. The state of Michigan is another state we're working with, and they're all on. They're all on about clean fuel, clean technology, clean vehicles, and all of that. They have a couple of additional reasons. They're a huge manufacturing state, and they want to keep that manufacturing at home. So they're doing everything they can to reinforce the manufacturers to focus on clean vehicles. So lots happening. We'll shuffle through this political madness, and we'll get through the other side. And I think we'll all stand taller for it. It'll be a little bit bloody, I think, from the business standpoint, but and it has been. And a lot of great ideas and technologies, and some that haven't even come to the surface yet that are already out there. So it's going to be exciting to watch. Hopefully, I live long enough to see it all come together. But you know, but I think we're going to be fine in the long run. And certainly, if I felt that we didn't have a chance at making this happen, I would have long since already been looking for employment somewhere, because it's hard to make it on, as you know, Brian, when you have fixed income, it's hard to go well beyond that without a little additional help. So
Yeah.
we're getting by.
Yeah. Well,
But
thanks, Elliot. Well, I think there's two things that we need to keep in mind. The first is that change happens at an exponential rate. It's very, very slow, imperceptible at first, and then you hit that so-called, hockey stick where it really takes off. And Bill Gates said it. He said, we overestimate the amount of change in the next couple of years, and we way underestimate the change in 10 years. So, these things are a little bit slow to get off the ground. But the other thing that, especially in the area of hydrogen, and I'm talking about this all the time, is that, it takes a village, so to speak. We don't have a market. We don't have a plethora of buyers and sellers and infrastructure. And so every project that comes along almost has to be islanded, as if it's on its own, where you have to, and that's what New Day Hydrogen is doing. They're going out and they're finding those users, the fleets. They're finding the vehicles. They're going to produce the fuel, and so for a lot of these things, I think we need to think of providing the whole cloth initially, which won't be the case eventually, but those things make hydrogen really hard, which is the whole reason that I got into this space and started the Colorado Hydrogen Network in the first place was to try to bring all those pieces together and make them happen. And so, if you're thinking, well, I want to be a hydrogen supplier, well, you got to go out and find the customers. And you got to maybe even work at getting the infrastructure, and it may be prototypes initially and those kind of things. And that does make it hard, but I don't think we should be discouraged. I think if you look at anything that's happened that was worthwhile, that was successful, boy, in the beginning, it struggled. Whether it's some movie star or rock star, some of those people waited 10 years to finally hit. And the trick is if you can hang on in the meantime, if you can't, you're done. And maybe that was the case for Hyzon, but so I don't. Does anybody else have any other insights into business wise what's going on with either Hyzon or Nikola?
Hey,
Stu
Brian, it's Buford.
Oh yeah, hey
Uh,
Beaver.
yeah, I don't have any insight into either one of those. I think Elliot said it well, that it wouldn't be surprising if we do end up with a, kind of a, smaller, slender, thinner version of those when they come out of bankruptcy. But I do want to make the point that obviously Hyzon and Nikola, their bankruptcy was a very public negative impact on hydrogen. But there are other players that are out there. Hyundai, is definitely clearly established in the Class 8 space. You have others, Packard, Daimler. Kenworth just got done with their pilot with Toyota down in Port of Long Beach. So there are plenty of players, and even in that medium duty space, and I know you said that that was disappointing, and I agree with you that there weren't many there, but Ford and GM are playing in that space under the Super Truck 3 program. So there are players out there. Unfortunately, the progress they're making isn't as, let's say, widely distributed as the negative press we're hearing out of Nikola and Hyzon. So there are players out there, they're working it, and hopefully they're going to hit it, hit it well and hit the point of commercialization in the near term.
Yeah.
Absolutely. One other thing I might add too is that there's a lot of just like politics, there's a lot of false information that's being put out by publications that quotes, hey, they're hydrogen or clean energy, and they're not in favor of hydrogen, although they have the appearance looking in. And if you read clearly through it and who's backing them, that you'll see why. That, some of them even go as far as saying that hydrogen uh, isn't here now and might be 20, 30 years down the future, but this company's failing, this company's failing, this company's failing, instead of talking about things like Buford's talking about, because that information is available as well. All you got to do is look for it. And the truth is that there's millions of people working on hydrogen projects all over the world. And step by step, things are happening. Hydrogen trains, buses, power plants, all that kind of thing is going on. And it's just finding your niche and sticking to it and focusing on getting better and getting better and getting better as we do it. The two core things for us is getting the cost of those trucks down and getting the cost of fuel down.
Mhm.
And then at that point, then when it's viable to a transportation company to look at hydrogen, then it's not going to be this giant mountain to climb to get that figured out, because none of these fleets can afford to go out and spend twice as much for a hydrogen vehicle because it's clean, unless there's a mandate, and those mandates just disappeared. So I think we have to look at how we can get down to parity as close as we can with diesel fuel as in from that perspective, and at the same time, step by step evolve the types of technology, not just electrolysis, not just steam SMR, but projects like you're talking about, Brian. Natural hydrogen is a big hit all over the place right now, and there's other technologies too, solid hydrogen,
Mhm.
and a variety of different things. So those will all evolve and pan out over the next few years. But once they do, then there's going to be like everybody's going to say, okay, we're going to jump on it, like VCRs or beta or whatever, how all that happened. Once that market's determined, then it's going to accelerate.
Yeah, you got to watch out for those naysayers. And, that
Right.
was my point last month when I talked about really filtering the news that you listen to because all of that is negative. And it comes back to this failure of imagination again. People look back and they say, well, hydrogen's bad because it all comes from SMR. Well, your electricity used to come from coal too, but in the future, that's not going to be the case, in either of those. And people don't. I don't know, for some reason, maybe because it's safer to just talk about what already exists and not to talk about what could be in the future. But I think the future is bright, and I think there's a lot of opportunities out there. And I think it's the spirit of the times. People really understand that we've got to do something about climate change, and we've got to have hydrogen because you can't make everything run off electrons. It's just not practical. So,
Well, thank you, Brian.
yeah. All right. Well, golly, feel a little bad that we're so early with the meeting, but it just was a month that there wasn't a lot of new things to put up. Has anybody got other thoughts?
Well, yeah, I
Anything?
wanted to
Hey,
say
hey,
one other thing.
Brian.
Oh,
Yeah, go ahead.
Oh, I was, this is Phil Clark. I was just curious. Do you have any updates on the status of hydrogen hubs across the nation and kind of where things are at with that, possibly even regarding funding?
yeah, I don't have any insight, Phil. I mean, obviously, the White House is trying to take away that funding. We've all heard that. They probably, I'm guessing, aren't going to be successful. Maybe I'm just thinking wishfully. But I don't know. Now, Phil, one of the things that I'm trying to get going here, along with Colorado Clean Tech and the Colorado Energy Collaboratory, is a clean energy hub. And really, that's talking about looking at the entire big picture of all the sources, all the users, all of the infrastructure and moving of energy, and bringing that together with a group that can maybe pick pieces of that schematic, if you want to call it that, and say, okay, um, Phil over here wants to provide hydrogen, and Elliot over here wants to use it, and let's get a project where we can look at all the pieces to this, moving it around, storing it if we need to see if we can get some kind of a project going. So a little bit of a grassroots approach. Don't have any big funding on that, but we'll see where that goes in the future. So maybe that'll be a substitute, Phil, for the Rocky Mountain Energy or hydrogen hub that didn't happen. We'll have a clean energy hub instead, perhaps.
Okay, great.
Yeah, good to hear from you, Phil.
You
Hey,
too.
Brian, one thing I wanted to bring up, I didn't know if you mentioned it earlier, but at the at the Drive Clean event, one of our guys here was awarded a special award. You remember that?
Oh, yes. Thank you for bringing that up, Elliot. And I
Yeah.
apologize. I didn't think of that. You're talking about Buford.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Hey, Buford, if you're still on, could you just give us a summary of what that was?
Yes, thank you, Elliot, for bringing that up. Yeah, we were very proud to have been awarded the Partner of the Year for 2024 from Drive Clean Colorado. So very excited about that. Drive Clean Colorado has been a great partner of ours for really the entirety of New Day Hydrogen. We really wouldn't be where we are right now without them, and we are, hopeful they will continue in that partnership as we kind of get on that hockey stick, as you indicated, and start moving things forward. But very proud to have received that award.
Well,
Well,
and
the
Buford, that really is, I think, probably initiated by or whatever the contract or the grant that New Day and Drive Clean got for the trucks, which has been on a little bit of shaky ground. But could you talk about where that is and what's happening with that?
Sure. And I'll going back to Walter's question, I'll give a little update on that as well. As everyone knows, when the executive orders came out in that third week of January, all of us, kind of stood around trying to figure out what that means to us. The for the CFI grant, which we did with Colorado State University, we feel like we're on pretty solid ground in light of the fact that the the grant agreement's been executed between the CSU and Federal Highway. We've started work, we've been reimbursed, so we feel pretty good. The negative, at no point in time are we expecting anybody is going to say it definitely is on, is not on. So this is going to be kind of, to a certain extent, kind of feeling our way in the dark to a little bit, which is frustrating. We'd love to be accelerating at this point, but we're kind of moving cautiously just because we don't know what the impact is. As far as the DOE, the Vehicle Technologies Office grant, which we did with Drive Clean, we submitted that. We actually submitted that with a company called Quantron, which is a German, hydrogen fuel cell electric truck manufacturer. Unfortunately, the day that they awarded the grant, Quantron declared bankruptcy. So it was not a it was it was a high and a low all in the same day. But we were lucky and we were able to reach out to quite a few of the contacts that we've had in the vehicle side of things, and we were able to get one of the big OEMs. They won't let me say who it is at this point, so forgive me for that. But we were able to get one of the big OEMs to basically fill Quantron's shoes. Quantron was proposing heavy duty. These would actually be, well, actually, they were proposing medium duty, sorry. These would be medium duty as well, kind of class 5, class 6 range. Um, we are in association with that, kind of feeling our way as well. Unfortunately, that agreement wasn't executed at the point in time the executive orders came out. We were striving towards that as hard as we could, but didn't quite get there. So it's a little bit on, as you indicated, Brian, a little bit of shaky ground as we're trying to feel our way through on that one. At this point, nobody has said it is done, but we're, once again, trying to feel our way. One of the big impacts, and anybody that's got federal, grant funding knows this, is you're dealing with a lot of unknown out of DC, but the biggest impact we're finding is a lot of the contacts we've had within, the Department of Transportation, the Department of Energy, are no longer with the Department of Transportation, the Department of Energy. So all of our project managers that were responsible for those projects are gone. So we're having to find new people who is responsible for that, get them up to speed, find out what they know. And in a lot of cases right now, they don't know a whole lot more than we do. So that was a very long-winded way to go. We're kind of feeling our way through this one cautiously, but are still hopeful that we're still on for both grants.
Yeah, and that Vehicle Technology Office, the VTO grant, was for, I'll explain what that is. It was for really kind of for vehicles so fleets could try them out.
Yeah. So the intention of it was a true prototype program. The vehicles from the OEM are not commercially ready yet. It's a pilot program. So it would be bringing two medium duty hydrogen fuel cell electric trucks into the Denver market and basically allowing folks to try them out. Now, the one difference is we actually got a commercial fleet to sign on with us. Once again, they won't let me say who that is at this point, which is frustrating, but it is a brand name fleet in the Denver area that will be, basically supporting that project. So the original intention, as you kind of implied, Brian, was that we would make this open to whoever had commercial fleets that could use those types of vehicles. What we've ended up with is these will be very specific towards that commercial fleet. They will be operating in the Denver area. They will be operating in those specific use cases. So it is something worthwhile to see, how hydrogen operates in this geographic region in these specific use cases. But unfortunately, there won't be vehicles available for, any commercial fleet to try out at this point in time.
Yeah, great. Well, Buford, I want to thank you and Seth. And, I did just give you guys the Hydrogen Heroes Award, but
You
for
did?
5 years now, you've been, tirelessly beating your heads against the wall. I think you're doing all the right things with lining up investors, with lining up the fleets, with the grants, and reaching out to people. We're just really lucky to have, people like you here in Colorado. to carry this torch kind of without much reward here for quite a while, and just glad you were able to keep going and keep up the good work.
Thank you. Thank you. I mean, it really, it's the old adage that, it takes a village, and
Mhm.
that's true in regards to everything we're doing here. Without, Colorado Hydrogen Network, without Drive Clean Colorado, without CDOT and CEO, without, B&G, without Walter and his company, these are all folks that are striving for the same thing, the same direction, moving this market forward. And I truly believe it's with the efforts of all of us that we're going to get there, not through the efforts of any individual company or any individual themselves. So, appreciate the kind words, but I truly believe it's the efforts of all of us are going to get us there.
Well, we made a lot of progress, so we got to keep looking ahead. As Henry Ford said, obstacles are those terrible things that you see when you take your eye off your goal, and we just got to keep our eye on the goal and don't worry about those obstacles. Just keep going.
Well, the trick is, if you're always, you do need to look behind every now and then, because that's the only way you see how far we've come.
Yeah, yeah,
If you continue to look forward, which we do need to do most of the time, that goal still seems so far away. But if you look behind us, we have, as you've indicated, we have come so far. I'm proud of everything that all of us have done. But to your point, we still got a long way to go.
yeah, yeah. Well, we wouldn't have anything to do then, would we?
What a terrible day that would be.
All right. Well, thanks, Buford, and I know Seth's not on the call, but thanks to him as well for just the incredible effort that you guys have put out. It's really pretty impressive. So,
Appreciate it.
all right. Well, gosh, we still have quite a bit of time. Feel bad about that, but any other? I like this discussion we're having, and it's a little tricky to do on Zoom. But other comments, thoughts, anything anybody wants to contribute?
Yeah, I mean, just from the Drive Clean side, thank you so much, Buford. We are really excited about that grant, and we were really excited about that grant, still are, and are hoping things continue to progress. We've got a handful of different federal grants in the works, and are talking to various different project managers, and some of them are being brought back as of
Nice.
recently. So things are starting to trend in kind of a positive direction. So really hoping things move forward with that guy, because we are very excited about it. But yeah, Buford, you got Partner of the Year for a reason. We really appreciate your work and your partnership. So thank you so much.
Nice, Quinn.
Yep.
All right. Yeah. Thank you, Quinn. Well,
Ryan, I have one flag for you. This is Rob Braun at Colorado School of Mines.
yeah.
I wanted to call folks' attention. I think you put it out in the newsletter, but there's that Mines Hydrogen Symposium, April 7th to 8th. Yeah, and maybe online you're not. I think they're still working on the agenda. It's very economic. It's like a day and a half. Nor 2 half days, I forget. And it's mostly around for 3 or 4 different sessions. One would be around geologic hydrogen, just what's happening there, including folks from ARPA-E would be giving as one of the presenters. Then there is keynotes from Sandia, Evraz, and some other folks around storage and transportation. And then there's a bit on another session on utilization, and then there's a session on electrolyzers and fuel cells. So it's all fairly short. It's not intended to be 2 3 day full days. It's half day on Monday and kind of a half day on Tuesday morning. So
Yeah.
yeah,
Thanks, Rob.
yeah, you
And
see more there on it
yeah, I'm
yourself.
glad I'm glad you're on. It's going to save me an email or a phone call. You'd asked me to speak. Is that still in there, and how long? Do you know yet?
Yeah, so I'm gonna push that to John Bradford. I'll
Okay.
respond to you and copy him, and he can give you more guidance.
Okay.
I'm not trying to organize this. This other folks were organizing. I was just trying to help them
Okay. Yeah, I didn't mean to
fill
put you
out
on the
that. Yeah, no worries. No
Yeah, I
worries.
didn't want to put you on the
Um,
spot, and if that
I
the
think what they're looking for is a lot of what this community offers, in terms of understanding more, on the ground happenings, with projects, infrastructure, balance of plan and supporting, industries,
Mhm.
that are certainly, in the Rocky Mountain, if not just Colorado.
Well, we do have a lot going on here. I mean, we've got obviously School of Mines, but also we've got the Geological Survey is here. We've got SARAD. They had in at the end of September, beginning of October, or was it end of August, beginning of September? They had their Hydrogen Mountain Retreat up in Boulder. Brought a bunch of companies in. So um, we've been saying it takes a village. We're trying to provide the village, and that's not all it takes, certainly, but I think it all helps to network. I think there's a lot of value in that. So, yeah, and I'll put this other slide back up in case folks didn't get it, but the tinyurl.com, that's basically your link. Rob, I just shortened it up so it was easier for folks to take notes here. So, all right, good stuff. Well, anybody else, any other thoughts or questions or news? All right, well, I'll give you all a little of your time back, but thank you, everyone. And again, really consider going out and attending a few of these symposiums and webinars and things and supporting them. All right. With that, I think we'll adjourn.
Thanks, Brian.
Yeah.
Thanks,
Thanks,
Brian.
everybody.